Hello and welcome to our latest Big View webinar. We are delighted to have you joining us today. My name is Sharon Delaney McLeod. I'm a television journalist turned speaker, corporate trainer, and executive coach. And my jam is all about the spoken word because today, more than ever before, words matter and how we communicate. And a huge part of the way we communicate is actually our body language. And that is going to be the focus of our webinar today, which is using body language to turn viewers into clients. Before we dive in with our very special guest, I'd love to know where you're joining from. All right, pop in the chat there where you are coming in from. I am in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is on the East Coast of the United States. I know that we normally have people joining us from all over the world. Big View is definitely a global platform with people using it from everywhere. All right, there we go. We have a friend coming in from Riverside, California. Where else are you all coming in from today? I know that with time differences, we hit things at different hours of the day, but we are delighted to have you here. And like all other Big View webinars, when you have a question, please add it to the chat so that we can ask our special guest who is an expert, and you'll be able to get it straight from the subject matter expert and thought leader in body language. All right, joining us from the UK. Hey, Chris. The UAE, the United Arab Emirates, nice to have you here. Macedonia, wow, so many great places that we are coming in from. I'm so excited to get going with this. So with that, I would like to tell you about our very special guest today. We have Greg Williams, who is the master negotiator, and that's exactly what he is known as. In fact, his website is themasternegotiator.com. And with the richness of 30 plus years of negotiation and reading body language experience, Greg Williams is an accomplished author, speaker, trainer, coach, and recognized worldwide for his knowledge and insights. He's been featured on many, many television shows as a contributor. He is known, as I mentioned, as the master negotiator and body language expert. As a Harvard trained negotiator and a TV news contributor, as I mentioned, Greg is often requested to appear on TV to critique the meaning and degree of truthfulness concealed in negotiation strategies and the hidden body language gestures of all sorts of people, from entertainers to politicians to others who are in the news. Now, as an author, Greg has written 7 books on the topics of negotiation, reading body language, emotional intelligence, and micro expressions, which I want to dig in and find out more about that. And through these books and webinars and consultations and presentations, Greg really helps people seek to enhance their skills by taking them on a journey of enlightenment, that they can find themselves adding that extra piece when deciphering body language so that you can add to your negotiation skills. So please help me welcome today's speaker, the master negotiator and body language expert, Greg Williams. Hey, Greg.
Hey, Sharon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's so nice to be joining you here with us. We got some more folks coming in from Uganda, a first timer. Very good. Nice to have you, Himbale. From Colombia, from Orlando, Florida. We've got this global audience who is ready to learn from you. Greg, where are you joining us from?
Right in the US of A, in the New York area.
All right, New York. Okay, the
Mhm.
city that does not sleep.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about how you came to this work. And so as before we delve into the practical tips and knowledge that we want to share with our viewers today, how did you get into this?
Well, it started, the negotiation aspect, when I was a little boy, literally around 4 years old. At that time, my parents allowed me to shine shoes at the corner bar, which was just a few houses away from where we lived. And what I observed was my demeanor projected towards those that I'd ask, "Shoe shine, sir?" And the way they responded. Sometimes people would be in a hurry. They'd rush right past me to get into the bar to have fun occur or whatever be the case. I started noticing that, and I said to myself, let me change my approach. And I would say, would you like to have a shoe shine, sir, so you'll look better to the other patrons in the bar? I didn't say patrons, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. I said the other people. And I noticed I started getting a few more yeses. And I also observed the body language of individuals. Now, some of you may think, wait a minute, you said you were 4 years old? Yes, I was 4 years old. And that goes to the fact that we are intuitive as to how we perceive the body language gestures of others from time to time. But a lot of times we don't pay attention to those signals. Sharon, let me just ask you something real fast. When you were introducing me a few moments ago, you indicated, and I'm paraphrasing, and you're going to learn something from the expert. And you said you're going to get it straight from the expert or something like that. Did the thought from the horse's mouth pass you through your mind?
I wanted to be careful not to say that.
Okay, okay. But and it goes back to the intuitiveness that people can sense if they're aware and cognizant of how people present themselves, how they speak, et cetera, per the thoughts that are traversing their mind. So that's a quick cook's tour, as it were, because
Sure.
as I progressed through my career, I enhanced my negotiation skills. As you mentioned earlier, I was trained at Harvard on specialized negotiation tactics and strategies. And the body language aspect is something that I have always been very much attuned to, simply because I'm very interested in it.
Greg, I feel like that story, your origin story being the 4-year-old speaking to strangers, you use that intuition to read the room per se. And I feel like that's a skill that many people could probably improve upon. And leaders, oftentimes their blind spot is they are not reading the room, right? They're missing those gestures or facial expressions that could be giving them a really big message that they are just ignoring. But now, what I would like to understand from you, Greg, when you add in this layer of virtual communication,
Mhm.
does that make it even more difficult to understand and read people's body language?
Well, I have an answer for most questions, and it says, and it is, it depends. And the reason I say
Okay.
it depends is because, for example, you and I are in a one-on-one environment, and thus I can see more features of you right now when you're talking, when I'm speaking, et cetera, et cetera. And thus I can acknowledge and receive some of your body language signals to discern some of the inner thoughts that may be occurring in your mind. In a larger environment where you are looking at smaller pixels of people, it may become more difficult. But overall, if you can get into a similar environment such as what you and I are in right now, there's an advantage that you can gain because it makes you focus on the
Mm.
aspects that you're seeing that someone is projecting through their body language. So again, it depends. But again, to what degree do you understand signals that are indicated to you through someone's nonverbal communications becomes the basis from which to answer that question.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's start with some of the basic things because a lot of people who are joining us here on this webinar are interested in being able to communicate better and a lot of times through video, and
Mm.
video is such an amazing tool that crosses every kind of job title or industry. There's so many wonderful ways we can use video. But what do you believe is the biggest challenge in turning viewers into happy clients per se?
First of all, commit yourself to being sincere about delivering content to your viewer. Okay, so what? It's not about you. It's not about, well, I have to be careful of what I say, how I say it, how they're going to perceive me. Hey, take the spotlight off of you. You're supposed to be delivering content for the viewer that the viewer can gain an advantage from as a result of you delivering it. If by chance you make that your focus as opposed to, my gosh, my hair is not right, or whatever be the case, you will be better positioned mentally, psychologically to deliver better content. And of course, we know about the lighting and how you pronounce certain words does matter. But at the same time, again, make it about the audience and the quality of content that you wish to deliver. Again, as opposed to trying to be a shining star and etc.
Okay. Greg, is there a video or a piece of content, an example of something that you really connected with? And what pieces of it, the elements jumped out or made it valuable for you?
Yes, there's a commercial, and I'm not going to name the company right now, but there's a commercial that I was watching the other day, and I was actually doing something else, and all of a sudden I said, "What in the world was that?" Now I had the ability to back up that particular segment, and what occurred was someone saying, "Hey, are you paying attention?" And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's different because you don't see commercials attempting to grab someone's attention in that manner. And I thought, that is unique. And then plus that, they were talking about a topic that I was interested in. And those are the components that make for, in my opinion, a good video. Know your market, know what they're
Mm,
interested in, understand what it is that they really want, and understand the time frame in which they want it. Might a 1 minute video serve a purpose that a 5 minute rambling video would not? Those
mm,
are the considerations that you have to think of. And I want to go back to something else that you said a moment ago, Sharon, about leaders. For leaders also, you should be mindful of, again, being a servant to those
mm.
that you are leading, because you don't want to act like I am the source, the all in source of everything you need to know. No, people are going like, yeah, you're just stuck on yourself. That's what you are.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, I love that, the servant leader, and I think we hear that phrase a good amount, but people would love to think of themselves as servant leaders, but not everyone meets that mark. I think it's something
Mhm.
to aspire to in many cases. So
Exactly.
let's talk a little bit about the body language thing. And I know I'm a hands talker, but that's because I know I deliver more naturally when I use my hands. If I were to sit on my hands right now, I think my shoulders would start talking for me because I have to use the hands. And when I think about it, as long as I have maybe some guardrails around what I'm actually doing with the gestures so that it's not all over the place, right? So what are there some particular body language gestures that maybe would help someone be perceived of as having credibility?
Yes. Again, know your audience, first of all. And if you're someone that speaks with your hands, understand on a small screen, you need to make smaller gestures. Bigger gestures make you appear to be exaggerated. And
Okay.
if that's the way you are perceived, people can think, wait a
Mm,
minute, what's he trying to do? Something's off. And subliminally, we observe body language, and I'll go back to the intuitiveness that I stated earlier. We're all aware that something happens with our body language and that of those with whom we communicate. And it may not register at a state of consciousness, but subconsciously, we may become aware that, there's something about that person I don't trust, and
mm,
you're not even really aware of it. Meanwhile, it really could be something as little as making large hand gestures or flailing, as others might perceive you to be, while you're actually recording your videos. So remember to stay calm. Remember, if you wish to make a point, here's where the finger can come in, but don't use
mm,
the finger too much. In my video, my promo video for this presentation, I actually said, I look forward to speaking to you for a big view. And I
mm,
coordinated my body language gesture with the words. Now,
Right.
our body always wants to stay in sync with the
Mhm.
belief that we have. And when we are out of sync, that's to say our words and our body language is out of sync, the body then will make gestures that are misaligned with what we're saying. And that
Yeah.
becomes another point of a lack of credibility, also. So be aware of that too.
Sure, the incongruence will be a
Ah,
huge tell that what you're saying may not be what you mean if it's not working in sync, as you put it. I'd
mhm.
love to know if you have ever seen Dr. Albert Mehrabian's work, the PhD out of UCLA.
No, I haven't.
Greg, you might recognize the statistics around his work that how people perceive you when you're communicating of your message, 55% is your body language. 38% is the way your voice comes across to them. And then only 7% the words. Like, what? It seems out of sync, but in fact, it's true, isn't it?
Well, it is and it isn't. Again, it depends on the situation. And I say it depends on the situation because let's say you've created a bunch of videos on Big View and your audience just loves everything that you create. Then all of a sudden you create one video and instead of saying, well, I can give you insights about how to negotiate better, and instead you say, I can give you insights about how to negotiate better, people will be forgiving of you because they've already seen the content and how good it is that you've created prior to that. Nevertheless, I would always suggest that you strive to create valuable content. And to your point, there have been statistics about the value of the perception body language has and the spoken word being combined with it from a lot of different points of view. And yes, we do pay attention, as I said several times now, to the body language gestures that people emit. And we are guided by that much more so than we would realize. So, thus, tonality also plays a role in it because I can appear to be confident, but if my voice tonality is, I can appear to be confident, you know, again, there's that mismatch. And it's like, oh, something's off again. And intuitively, we may sense something is off. I see the gestures, but the words don't match, etc. So there's a combination that one has to always be mindful of when not only suggesting how you're presenting yourself through your body language, but having the tonality and words to match.
To match it. And how would you recommend people learn to see that in themselves? Would it be recording yourself and then watching back to see is it in alignment, or do you have a process that you recommend?
Yes, become attentive to how you present, period. And ask friends of yours, ask friends that will give you honest feedback. Can you tell me exactly how you perceive my gestures? And the friend will say, well, what do you mean? And that means the friend may not be as attentive to what you are saying, doing at that particular point in time. And you could then say, over a period of time, I'd like you to just observe how I present myself
Hmm.
and just give me feed forward, as I would term it, such that
Oh,
I can alter the perspective of how I project my image in different situations. Do that with 10, 15, 20 friends of yours. You will get some valuable feedback. Now,
hmm.
you can also look at videos that you've created of yourself. Some people tend to be overly critical of videos because they're picking out, oh gosh, I should have said this, I should have said that. Both of you and I are both members of the National Speakers Association. And I remember one former president saying, you'll always give three different presentations: the one you plan to give, the one you did give, and the one you wish you had given. So the point is, be good with yourself, knowing that you are on a journey of continuing improvement. Don't be overly critical. Just look at how you have appeared, how you wish to appear, and how you're going to appear in the future.
Yeah, be a student of the way that you're presenting and maybe we have the tool and we have so many tools. I mean, between phones, you can use Big View on your phone, you can use it on your desktop, record, watch it back. Start to analyze what do you believe the message that your body is saying. And there's one thing, Greg, I also was a television news anchor for 20 years. And one of the things that news directors did when looking at the next anchor they were going to hire, they pop in, well, it used to be tape, not tape anymore. They would click on the video and go. And what they would do is watch it in a couple of different ways. They would watch the video with no sound. They just wanted to see what the news anchor emoted with their body language and their facial expression. And then they looked away, replayed it, and just listened. What does the voice do? How is that delivery? Is it too fast? Is it too slow? Are the pauses in the right places? And then watching it back together. And when I left television, I realized, wow, that's an incredible way for all of us to start to understand better how we communicate. And now that's what I do. Have you ever used that method?
Well, no, I haven't, but I sure enough will from now going forward. No, seriously, it's great insight, and let me just pause and tell all of the viewers right now that is a serious activity to adopt. Listen and then watch. You will see things from different perspectives. And imagine that your audience is doing the exact same thing. Now, you mentioned Big View a moment ago, and boy, oh boy, I love some of the tools that Big View has. For example, the one where you may be looking off camera or whatever, but they have the tool that'll bring your vision.
I know.
I'm like, what? You can do what? How? Oh my gosh! And for those of you that use the teleprompter feature of Big View, that's something else that you can do with much greater ease because you don't have to necessarily worry that your eyes are straying too far off camera or things of that nature. And Sharon, to the point of listening and then watching, the combination really does allow viewers to hear and see you from different perspectives. So, like I said, that's something that I will do for sure.
Yeah, it was, and the thinking behind that, I said, well, why would you do that? I asked the news director, and she told me this, and it made sense back in the day, and it does now for all of us who are creating video content, because if you're putting it on LinkedIn or Instagram or YouTube, we are trying so hard to get people to stop the scroll and watch our piece of content. And when it's moving, it's usually silent. Therefore, what you're emoting visually must grab them. If you look bored, then they're going to be bored too. Why would they want to stop and watch this piece of content? Right? I mean, it's a mirror. And so she said, back in the day, as people are changing the channel, they may not have the audio on yet, and they may stop at a newscaster's face who looks engaging. So that's why they said they do this, because they want to see, as people are flipping, who they're stopping with. Now it's who you stopping with when your people are scrolling. So that's why you want to make sure you have this engagement in your face too. And depending on how much you are chopping if you're super close or if you're further back.
Oh, definitely so. And I was going to mention something else to your point. I saw a video of an individual that I assumed had great negotiation insight. The individual had just written a new book. And in the video, the individual was speaking content that I said, it's valuable for sure, but the delivery was way off. The eyes were dead, meaning there
Oh,
was no sparkle in the eyes. When
mhm.
the smile occurred, it was like,
Oh,
like I'm forcing this and things of that nature. And those are some body language gestures to be aware of. People want to see you because, as you indicated a moment ago, Sharon, even if they see a glimpse of you, they may stop or continue because of the image that you're projecting at that particular point in time. When you speak with a level of excitement that's shown on your face. Now, some of
yeah,
you are going, wait a minute, guy, were you over exaggerating right then? Well, slightly, but nevertheless, it was to drive a point home.
sure. And some of you, and I'd love to know those of you who are watching, I'm not going to say, but there's this notion of having a resting boss face. There's a different name for the one that the video that I'm talking about, but it's a video where people look like they're so mad at the world all the time. And you really have to check what message is your face telling people
Mhm.
or your body
Mhm.
language, right?
Oh,
Are there,
definitely so.
Greg, are there specific things that you could show us that some tips on how to project confidence with your body language in a video?
Yes. Now go ahead, she said.
And yes, and
Exactly. So when you're talking and you want to deliver a point with a higher degree of sincerity, you can lean slightly into the camera. It says to the viewer, not only are you projecting sincerity, but at the same time, you appear to be doing so. Okay, here's something else. You're saying something and you want it to be perceived with sincerity, and you're moving away from it. The body, remember, always wants to stay in a state of comfort. And thus, when inwardly you don't believe something, your body language tries to get away from exactly what you're saying. So if you're
Mm,
leaning back in a particular situation when you wish to convey sincerity, again, there's a mismatch between the verbiage and your body language. Something else that you might be mindful of too, and that is the way you use the pause in a video.
mm,
Pauses give people an opportunity to not only reflect upon what you're saying, but it also gives them a way, at times, to be pulled deeper into your video. Now, for those of you that are on video, you saw what I did also with my body language. I said to be pulled deeper into your video. I actually held my hand up and pulled it
mm.
towards me as though I'm pulling you deeper into what I'm saying. So those are such gestures that you can also emit when you are actually on camera and in live environments, by the way.
Gotcha. Those are all really insightful things. And I think about if you were going to be putting together a script and you wanted to identify where in the script you wanted to be able to really engage and maybe slow down the delivery and then have a purposeful pause. In the news world, as news anchors, we actually marked our scripts with either the word pause, or we used ellipses, or in my case, I used double hashtags, which the second it went up on the prompter, that alerted me, ooh, this is where I'm supposed to pause. Because if I'm reading an hour-long newscast, I can't remember all of the different scripts. But for you, for those of you who aren't used to reading teleprompters all the time, put the marks in the script so it reminds you this is where I'm going to sit up a little, or as Greg said, lean in a little, or give a different kind of expression.
Sharon, go ahead. Keep giving up tips. I
Oh,
mean,
no, no,
these
no,
are
no, I was
golden.
no,
These
no,
are golden.
well, Greg, do you mark your scripts in advance?
No, I don't. Now, the reason I don't is because, and this is not to blow my horn, but what the heck? I'm a body language expert and I know how to convey different degrees of nuances per how I wish to have my words perceived. And even, I mean, and I do it naturally. I'm doing it right now, talking about nuance with the closed fingers, meaning specificity with that
Mm,
particular gesture. And thus I do it naturally, but I can always, like anyone else, learn how to do things better. And that's one of the valuable tips of being attuned to all of the presentations that viewers see on Big View. There's such
mm.
insightful activities that occur and insights that are delivered that, my goodness, if you don't get better as a result of tuning in, you might as well check your pulse because you may be dead.
Greg, we have a question from one of our viewers.
Mhm.
A couple of minutes ago, we talked about having resting boss face where you look so disengaged and you could care less about, and it's almost like you're apathetic. But then on the other side of things, like I know I get very excited easily and I may become too smiley. And that's what one of our viewers wants to know. What about facial expressions that are too big and smiley if it doesn't match the content?
Well, that's something else. Remember what I said. The body language gestures have to be aligned with exactly the content that you're delivering. So if you tell someone, I think you're going to die tomorrow, like
Oh,
that, it's like, wait a minute, huh? Why are you smiling? It's that mismatch that communicates a different sign or signal than the
mm,
words that you actually indicate. So again, you have to be mindful of matching your body language gestures to the words that you are conveying and how you wish them to be perceived. You may notice also, as I'm speaking, there are moments when I wish to stress or highlight a point that I actually slow down a little
mm.
bit to do so. That signals to the audience, to the viewer, that I am saying something that I want you to pay more attention to. And I just caught my body language actually doing the
Yeah.
hand gesture towards too.
Yeah,
Again,
for sure.
it's the natural
It
thing
just
about body
naturally,
language.
yeah, that's the whole thing where people who say, "Oh, I talk too much with my hands." Well, no, I think the hands can be talking just within some parameters.
Yeah, exactly. Let me toss a question to you too, Sharon, because one thing I've noticed over the years is newscasters will tend to have papers in their
Mm.
hands when they're standing up, and it's to limit their hand movement for sure. Were you ever told anything about that in particular?
Well, and that was a case nowadays, many newscasters have to hold an iPad or a tablet instead of scripts. But the reason you have to do that is because if the teleprompter operator falls asleep at the wheel, you've got to have your scripts on a tightly produced newscast. But there is an element where you can hold maybe if you are doing a presentation or you're doing a video and you want to have your notes but you don't necessarily have teleprompter but you need your notes, maybe what we would do in news is we would have one hand holding our script and then the other hand would be free to gesture naturally with the way we were speaking, and
Oh my
that's how
goodness.
I did it.
Well, you know what? I want to highlight that point also. For those that are watching or listening, when you create videos, do what feels natural to and for you because you'll come across as more natural to the audience for whom you're creating the video. Sharon just talked about holding her script up in a paper format, and maybe you're somewhat uncomfortable with a teleprompter. Well, until you become more comfortable with the teleprompter, you can hold the script up and you can actually be open and honest and say, hey, I'm holding my script up as you're creating the video to the people that you're speaking to, so I don't forget the important points that I want to deliver for you. And they
Mm.
can people go, okay, well, as
Yeah.
opposed to later on, I'm seeing you holding the script up, and wondering, okay, what is he doing? You know, why is he
Yeah,
just
I mean,
talking to
break the
me?
fourth wall, right? And I think a lot
Yeah.
of people are they prefer a more user-friendly kind of look rather than something super polished because then that's sometimes hard to connect with.
Oh, definitely so. And one other thing that I always suggest to people when they create videos, position yourself such that your viewer can see themselves in you. So
Ah,
if you're teaching people how to become better speakers or things of that nature, don't sound so polished that others will go, well, I could never be like that. And others are going, yeah, and I would not want to be either. Or something. But
well,
present yourself in that manner. Yes.
that really lends itself to another question that we have, Greg, from someone called the Lost Widow. And here's her
Hmm.
question. And I think it depends on the subject. So here's the and I think this was when I was talking about looking engaging so that people will stop the scroll. But you're right, it depends on the subject. She says, I motivate grieving widows to grieve self-love. It's not realistic to be confident and know everything. That would be very difficult to relate. So, how to approach an audience when you've got content that absolutely would not lend itself to being big and boisterous, and how would what would you recommend for our viewer here?
Well, it goes back to, first of all, knowing your audience. Always know your audience. And in a situation described, and thank that viewer for that question, and knowing your audience, you know how to position yourself. And you definitely would not use loud, boisterous words, gestures, etc., because you want to display the sincerity of the situation in and through your voice. Now, people grieve in different manners also. And as they are grieving in different manners, you might actually find out prior to creating the video for that purpose of how people are grieving and lend your expertise towards that particular situation or situations that you've uncovered from your viewers. That way, you truly appear and sound as though you're talking directly to the viewers.
Hmm. Yeah. And that sincerity, it has to be there. People can see through an inauthentic kind of delivery. So I hope that was helpful to you with that and the manner in which you're talking about the content and making sure it's matching. I wanted to ask Greg, so thinking about all of these various body language tells that that jumps over to the negotiator part because I feel like I am a terrible negotiator. And I'm guessing that all the bosses in my past TV news life knew that they never had to give me a raise because I was terrible at negotiating for. Or maybe now when I'm speaking to an event planner on Zoom, I'm sweating bullets asking for my full fee. And she knows it, right? What is your recommendation for that?
Get over the fear. That's number one. And I do mean that seriously because, as you indicated a moment ago, sweating bullets over asking for your full fee can send a signal, and it most likely does, that wait a minute, this person will go lower no matter what he or she says. So there's a degree of confidence that you have to project when you are in a negotiation. Plus, that understand your value per how it is being perceived by those with whom you are negotiating. Therein lies some of your inner power. Understand also how you're going to bring that inner power to the top of mind per how you project your image. Now, if by chance, and Sharon, I tell you what, oh boy, let's do a quick mock session,
Oh, okay.
negotiating for salary or whatever, because we
Okay.
can demonstrate through
Sure.
example how we
Yeah.
might negotiate this. Go ahead, go for it. So, you're, let's say, I'm a meeting planner in this case, okay,
Okay.
and you are selling your services.
Okay.
Sharon, so
Greg,
how are you doing today?
hi, Greg. I am so delighted to meet you. And I see that you've got this conference coming up. I'd love to know what it is that you are hoping your attendees will walk away with. And maybe my content might be a good match for you.
Ah, okay. How did you find out about the conference?
I saw it online and I have a few speaker friends who have spoken at your event in the past.
Okay. And what's your immediate interest?
My immediate interest is I'd love to be your opening keynote. I feel like I have a
Okay.
message that could potentially resonate really well with your attendees.
And what keynotes have we presented in the past that has resonated with you?
The ones about people finding their purpose and really leaning into their passion so that they can show up better for their work teams and in their personal life as well.
Ah, okay. Well, thank you for that information. What's your cost?
Oh, mock
Okay.
scenario done. Oh, goodness.
Okay.
This is
Let's go back over a
exactly
few
where I'm at.
factors. First of all, in a negotiation, the person asking questions is the person that's controlling the flow of the negotiation at that particular point in time. Notice you actually asked me a question. I never did answer it. I just asked you one question
I
after another,
know.
after another. Yeah. So all I was doing was getting information from you so I could find out to what degree you have insights about what we've done, yada, 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 yada. And then when I popped the question on you about your cost, it was like, oh, well, to the point, and I know we were role playing, Sharon, for sure, because I know how good you are. Okay, so great role play. Um, to the point, know what you're going to ask for before you actually get on the call. Anticipate questions that might be tossed to you, how you might answer them, how you might take the control of the negotiation in this particular situation by questions you could pose in response to questions that are asked of you, and how you're going to project your value.
Yeah.
Because I asked, what was your cost? My response to that would have been, well, actually, it's not a cost at all. And I would have paused just right there, waiting for that other individual to say something. Well, what do you mean? It's an investment.
Ah,
Now I would have paused
yes.
again. I would have paused
Oh.
again to hear what that person was going to say. Now, had that person said, well, what do you mean by an investment? I would have asked, well, in the past, can you tell me how much you've invested to bring speakers in of my caliber? Now, once again, I'm
Oh.
taking control of the conversation. And
Oh.
if that person says, well, tell me what you mean by that, I would realize, recognize what that individual was doing, trying not to lose control. And I would say, well, in the past, you had speakers. At what caliber were they? To what degree did some not meet the expectations? Because now I want to dig into a pain point, trying to uncover a pain point
Okay.
that
Okay.
particular person had with a speaker. Well, we had a speaker that people got up in the middle of the presentation and walked out on. Okay, now you've told me something that I could sell as a value add. And I could say something along the lines of, wow, I can imagine how that made you look in the eyes of those that you report to. Oh, yeah, it really did. Now I've made a connection there too. Well, I just
Oh.
want you to know I will never do that to you. And by the way, I've never, ever, ever, ever had it happen to me. So again, it's about positioning,
Oh.
how you're going to control the flow of the negotiation, and understand what you want to occur at the end of the negotiation. Sometimes when you're negotiating, the outcome that the opposition proposes is not good. So you should also know when you're going to walk away in the
Oh.
negotiation that occurs. Because,
Beforehand.
yes, because the longer you stay engaged in a negotiation, the more likely you are to make concessions that you otherwise would not have to make or would not
Mm.
make, because time commitment becomes, well, I've invested this much time thus far in the negotiation. I might as well see it to the end. Boy, oh boy, when you negotiate against a good negotiator, they will eat you alive if you adopt that position. Mm.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And for people who do not have a poker face,
Ah,
how do you, when you get in, like we just did, like when you get to the question that you're dreading, what do you slow your roll? Do you breathe deeper? What do you do to not have that tell that you are about to go sideways?
you've already practiced ahead of time. You've
Okay.
anticipated the question. So you know how you're going to respond. It's not that you have to do it in the moment. And that's what you should not do. Be caught in the moment. But hypothetically, let's say something is sprung upon you that you truly had not anticipated. You make an excuse to get away from the negotiation table at that particular point in time. You know, can we take a 15-minute break? Why do you need a 15-minute break? This negotiation is just getting to a point to where, boy, I just have to think about some new things or some other aspects, or I had to confer with whatever higher authority you set. You should always set a higher authority. You should never place yourself in a position where you're the one to make the final decision.
Oh,
my
really?
board. Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
tell me
Because
more. Tell me more. I
okay.
hadn't okay.
When you do that, so hypothetically, let's say hypothetically, you're looking for a speaking assignment, a gig, and your normal investment fee is $25,000. And the person says, "Well, you know what? I can probably give you 15 right now. So take it or leave it." And again, people play what's it called when they're going right at one another, chicken or whatever it's called.
Oh, playing chicken, yeah, that's I
Yeah,
think
play
that's
a chicken.
exactly it,
Right,
playing
right,
chicken.
right. So right now, you have a decision to make, which is something you should have anticipated ahead of time. You can say, "Well, I appreciate the offer. I really, really appreciate the offer. Let me confer with my team. And if you don't mind, I'll get back to you very shortly. Is that okay?" Now, notice the body language gesture too.
Oh, you're
Yeah, I'm
nodding
nodding
like
my head.
telling them, "Go ahead and agree."
Yes, exactly, exactly. So I'm inviting you through my body language and my words to agree with exactly what I'm saying. Most of the times, people will say yes. If they say no, you can say, "Well, truth be known, I do not have the final authority. I just need to confer just a few moments with my significant other, board, whatever you wish to use as your higher authority." Now, that's one aspect you can use to address that particular situation. You could also use the aspect of, so that's putting yourself to the side. Suppose the person says, "Well, look, I'm sorry, I don't have that time. Please give me a yes or no right now." Now you hear the tonality in the voice also,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
like, "Come on, let's get to it," type of thing.
yes.
Maybe that's not the right assignment for you. You can honestly say, "Well, I appreciate again the offer. I can't accept it right now. If things change or when things change, please feel free to reach back to me." And now you've used the takeaway. The person tried to use the takeaway with you by saying, "I need a decision right now." And remember, the takeaway is very powerful, especially if you think you're close to obtaining something. By that person using the takeaway and then you using the takeaway to take it back from the person, suppose you really are the only one that they are speaking
Yeah,
to. Okay, now you've taken it away. You've raised your credibility in that particular situation. And again, understand the flow of what's occurring. So let me get back to this final scenario. So the person says 15 is the best I can do. At that point you have 15 of that 25K that you were actually looking for. You could then say, if I could accept the 15K, what might we be able to do to make up that additional 10K of value that I'm going to offer? Put it back in their lap. Let them be the one to give you a solution to that potential problem.
like allow you to sell your book or
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
maybe additional days at the hotel to make a little mini vacation out of it.
exactly. And Sharon, all of those are things that you should have done ahead of time before engaging in the negotiation. Think to yourself, what other value could I receive from this particular situation that I might offer as an added add on so that I can reach that 25K? And now here's one other thing, too. Okay. So the person says, "There's nothing else that we can do in this particular situation." Again, consider, well, if there were something else you could do, what might it be? Notice how I've used the if statement also to
Yeah,
reposition the whole situation. So those are some quick insights.
I love it. I love it. When people get nervous, sometimes we start to speed up with our delivery of our voice, and then that starts to create what looks like a very anxious delivery overall, because again, if you're speaking too quickly, the hands are moving too quickly. Do you have any techniques to help slow the roll to try and get that neutral tone back?
Yes. Slow your speech. Realize, recognize what's happening inside of yourself. Why are you experiencing the degree of angst that you have at that particular point in time? How might you correct it? Again, had you practiced the negotiation before you entered into it, you also practice for this particular occurrence. You should know what you're going to do. In that particular situation, slow down. Take a moment to breathe. Take time to respond to questions in a manner that allows you to sound more credible. The thing is, when you start to speak fast, remember your body is out of alignment with what it is that you're thinking, what you're feeling, and the body wants to get back into alignment. So you're rushing through something so that you can get to the point where you start to feel comfortable. Well, make yourself reach that point sooner by just breathing and regaining control of what you're thinking, how you're saying it, and why you're feeling the experiences that you are having.
Hmm. Your voice, there's something about it, Greg. It just it helps me feel calmer just listening, and the cadence in which you are speaking really helps denote kind of a calmer feeling. And that very helpful. You've demonstrated exactly what I was thinking I probably need to be doing.
Well, thank
As
you.
we come Greg, as we come to a close, what is one final big takeaway that you would like our viewers to walk away knowing?
I don't want it to close. No, no, that's a good point. It's know when to close, also for
True.
sure, definitely so. The point that I wish viewers to remember: number one, you're always negotiating. That happens to be my motto. That what you do today impacts the opportunities or lack of that you will have tomorrow. Thus, be very mindful of the engagement you have with people. Number two, be aware of your body language. The body is always speaking. Be aware of your ability to read the body language of others because they're always sending you signals. Some could allow you to avert danger in some situations, some could avail you to more opportunities also. So be aware of those three factors: the fact that you're always negotiating, be aware of your body language, and the body language of others.
Gotcha. Okay. And with that, I believe that we have a nice giveaway that that I is that right? I believe that you have offered maybe a portion of one of your books,
Well, it's actually a mini
a mini book.
MINIBUK book. It's a
Mini book.
whole book, yes.
Okay.
And
Excellent.
and
Excellent.
Sharon, I'll tell you, it goes through a lot of negotiation tips, insights, and body language videos also that I created years ago, and it's free. My gift
Excellent. Well,
to all the Big View listeners and viewers.
excellent. And you will see in the chat ways that you can connect with Greg on LinkedIn. You can get access to the giveaway, that the mini book that he is offering to all of our Big View viewers today. And with that, Greg, it has been a true pleasure for me, and I'm sure for all of our viewers today. I think we've all learned so very much, and we thank you for your time and your expertise.
Sharon, it's been my pleasing pleasure to actually present today because my mission is to help more people throughout the world become better at what they do. So I thank you for helping me do just that and Big View.
All right. Thank you so much. And Bruno on the back end, thank you for all your help. And we will see you next time.
Remember, you're always negotiating.
Ever before, the way you communicate can make or break your career. Hi, I'm Sharon Delaney McLeod. I'm a television journalist turned speaker and facilitator working with leaders and their teams to amplify their impact. In our hybrid world, it's crucial to connect with each other in meaningful ways. In fact, new research shows that effective communication has become the most vital competency and non-negotiable skill that modern leaders must flex to keep their teams engaged and productivity high. I invite you to follow my content for professional development best practices, podcasts, articles, and videos that will help you drive business results. I look forward to partnering with you in person or virtually to level up what I call your power skills. Hit the link below to start a conversation.
Videos you're proud of. Easily trim your video by selecting the words where you want to start and end. Color your presentation with automatic subtitles and highlighting keywords. Add your brand logo. Add music for an emotional touch. Add your contact info on an animated business card on all your videos. Easily replace green screen with an image or a video loop. Stand out with a web page with your logo, your video at the center, and personalized button for visitors to interact. It's one tap to simultaneously upload your videos on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Always know what to say next with the Big View teleprompter.